Good evening, Fremont Community Church. How are we doing today? I pray everybody's had a good day. I want to thank you for joining me this evening. It's been a good week so far, I guess. We're talking about this control-alt-faith. Because I think if you're anything like me, you spend too much time on one of these. Or you spend too much time on your iPad. Or you spend a little too much time on Facebook or whatever. Especially most of us younger people, we're kind of like that. And I figure the 60 and below crowd is the younger people here. But we're looking at ways that we can either use this technology right or learn to step away from it a little bit because sometimes it takes over our lives. So I was scrolling like I'm always doing, it seems like, and I scrolled past this post. It said this. It said Jesus, and it's got the greater than sign, algorithms. Jesus is greater than algorithms. And it kind of made me laugh. But it also made me wonder a little bit. How do we actually put Jesus above the noise of all the notifications, all the hashtags, all the viral trends that inundate our lives? And it got me thinking a little bit. Maybe we shouldn't fight this war so much. See, Matthew 28, 19 and 20 is known as the Great Commission, and it says this, "Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. Surely I am with you always and to the very end of the age." Now, the thing I want to look at there is all nations. Because in our technological age, that means the digital world too. We can reach things and people so far away. These messages I do here have been watched as far away as Pakistan. We can reach the world from little bitty Fremont, which is pretty cool. But how do we make disciples of the world? Where the attention spans are like crazy short, and skepticism of religion in general is really, really high. Perhaps we should practice authenticity over algorithms. If you're on TikTok, there's an algorithm, and it'll kind of send your video to no man's land, or where you can see a lot of people to say. And there's always a balance in how you curate your video to where it can actually be seen by more people. I really don't do it very well, but some people are great at it. They get millions of views. I can't do that. But there's this phrase that we use, it's called cringe. And if you got teenagers, you've heard the term cringe. And see, the problem with cringe is how do you evangelize in these digital spaces without being cringe? And I talked to a couple pastors, and I got this. It says cringe happens when we prioritize spectacle over substance. When I get too many bells and whistles, and the message gets lost in what I'm trying to portray. See, Jesus didn't shout slogans. He didn't have punchlines. Jesus ate with sinners. So maybe we should start with curiosity and not necessarily the agenda. Maybe we should start with the relationship and allow that to form into a discipleship. See, we have to learn to build relationships, not necessarily platforms. Paul was in the church at Thessalonica, and he put this in 1 Thessalonians 2:8. "We loved you so much, we were delighted to share not just the gospel, but our lives with you as well." With our lives with you in this way. We are called to live life with our brothers and sisters. If we're trying to disciple people that don't yet know Him, we can't turn our backs to Him. We can't hide from Him. Sometimes we've got to eat with the sinner. And sometimes we have to get on here with people that don't think like us. And it's okay. Can you turn a follow into a conversation? This is something I'm going to start doing. It came to my mind while I was writing this. I get people that DM for you more mature people. That means digital messaging. People who interact with my comments on my messages. It's something like this. Thanks for the like. What resonated with you? So were they just commenting to say something cute, or did they really listen? And maybe if they weren't listening, they'll go back and listen so they can respond to that. Because people on here love to talk back and forth. We got to start building relationships, my friends. Now, here are some tools that can help us a little bit. There's this app on here called Instagram. A lot of us are on it. Why don't we post a daily verse and a question that goes to that verse? Something like, how has God provided for you this week? How does this verse go with what's going on in your life? Something to that effect. Use polls because they spark interaction. If you have WhatsApp, start a group. Create a daily bread group. Share a 5-minute voice note unpacking a psalm. Invite them to reflect on it. These are really, really cool things. And the reason they work, if you do them regularly, the same reason I do Thread every week, the same reason I post 3 messages a week on stuff, is because consistency is greater than perfection. You already know your pastor's not perfect. You already know your pastor makes mistakes. I tell you about it all the time. But consistency is greater than perfection. Even Jesus used parables, which were just everyday stories to teach. I think most of us think that the internet world, the digital messaging world, the TikTok world, the Facebook world is this hostile territory that you don't want to get into. And I won't lie to you, it is a minefield sometimes. I mean, you have to learn to discern between what's wholesome and what can derail you. You really have to pay attention to that. But I'm choosing to look at it, and we should choose to look at it as a digital mission field. The fact that I'm doing this online tells you that the digital world works really well. I mean, we got to acknowledge there's some tough things on here. You got Reddits, you got atheism, you got forums, you got TikTok comment sections, which may be good or bad. But here's the strategy we should have. We need to learn to listen. We need to learn to listen. What's this person really asking? Think about Proverbs 18:13 for a moment. It says, to answer before listening, that is a folly and shame. We have to learn to listen before we respond. We can't go in with preconceived notions when we're having conversations with people that don't think like us. We have to listen. We have to see where there's commonality. And then we have to respond. In love, my friends. See, we need to bridge with the common ground. See, I also hate hypocrisy. But that's why I follow Jesus. Because Jesus called out hypocrisy too. And respond with grace, my friends. 1 Peter 3:15 says this, but your hearts revere Christ as the Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you to give a reason for the hope you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. In the digital world, the rewrite, the remix of this would be, blessed are the keyboards that type gentleness. Just because you can be harsh doesn't mean you have to. Just because you're hiding behind this screen doesn't mean that your responses don't hurt or help. I used to have a friend in Texas. He would be on Facebook because that was the big thing back then. And we would get into these comment sections on things. And we would kind of tag team it. But he had a genius thing when these things got toxic. He simply said, typed in there, "How can I pray for you?" He wasn't going to get into the mud with them. Unfortunately, I was not quite as spiritually mature yet. I would dive into the mud a little bit with him. But he would just simply ask, "How can I pray for you?" What if we walked in, we went online, we saw these things, and they're bashing Christians, or they're doing this and say, "How can I pray for you today?" I started doing it a little bit on TikTok. Have I gotten cussed out a couple times? Yeah, but it's okay. Atheists will do that sometimes. So here's the thing. This is a call to action, my friends. What's one digital space that God is calling you to engage in this week? Think about it. Or if you're on Facebook, don't worry about getting TikTok. If you're on IG, don't worry about going to Facebook. Wherever you're comfortable in that digital world, what can you do to engage with someone? What can you do to spread Christ's love in some way, shape, or form? And how can your online practice, your online presence, reflect the patience and truth of Jesus Christ? Think about that for a minute. Because I'd love you this week. This is my challenge. Pick a tool. TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp, Signal, whatever. Even a comment section on Facebook or something. And use it this week to reflect Christ's love. I will bet that if we flooded internet, just a few people that watch us, if we flooded our social media with Christ's love, that it would have a change on people. It would make changes. It would influence change. It would make people think a little bit. So what do we got to lose? If we do nothing, they're still lost. But if we show Christ's love, perhaps we start a conversation. And if we can start a conversation, then we can form a relationship. And if we can form a relationship, then we can have the difficult conversations about faith and about the love of Christ and about eternity. That should be our goal, because it said in the Great Commission to go into the world. It said to go get everyone. Now, we're not going to win everyone, but we can win some. And we're not going to win any if we sit on our blessed assurance, my friends. I love you. I hope this lights a fire under someone. This one lit a fire under me. I actually wrote this about an hour and a half ago. This was pretty cool. But I really think that this, although we complain about the ills of technology, can also be a great tool in our ministries. I use it all the time. What's stopping you? Go into the scary world and make a difference in someone's life. Have a blessed day.